Hey everyone, welcome back to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Today we talk about the Steelers defensive line with the new updates on Derrick Harmon's situation and how good can this defensive line be in 2025. We'll talk about them, another look at the Steelers offensive line with Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu and the progress they've made through the preseason, as well as a look at the plan at quarterback, both short-term and long-term, all here in the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. All right, Steelers fans, as we know, the big talk at the end of last week was Derrick Harmon's injury situation. Now, if you followed me on Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else at Carter Critique, so you checked out our YouTube short that we posted up over the weekend, we did get an update on the Derrick Harmon situation, whereas we did think it was a good sign that Mike Thompson said it was a knee sprain after the game. We got it confirmed it's an MCL knee sprain, which means right now the Steelers have the choice between debating to put him on a short-term IR after the roster sets on Tuesday, which would keep him out for 4 weeks, maybe have him back by week 2, or just play it week to week. Well, as I noted in my report for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Mike Tomlin said that Derrick Harmon is week to week. He gave no indication in either direction of whether Derrick Harmon would go on injured reserve, but our colleague Jerry Dulac at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported himself that Derrick Harmon, the Steelers do not expect to put Derrick Harmon on injured reserve. They think that the most he'd be held out for is week 1. Now, we'll see how that plays out. The only time we'll tell with injuries. They're always tricky, but you got to just trust what the doctors say and go with what they're saying there. But when you talk to Derrick Harmon, he seemed very adamant that he was relieved about the situation because he did think that he was in danger of suffering a major injury. Now, it wasn't initially. It's funny, if you actually listen to him talk about it, he talked about how it wasn't the interception play that everyone was thinking was the play that he got hurt on. It was actually the play before. He thought he was fine. He played on it. And then after when he went to the sideline, he was like, hey, I feel something. Let's just take a look at it. When they looked at it, they're like, oh, we should take this to the locker room. And that's why he was looking pretty stressed on the cart because he wasn't sure what was going on. But turns out it's just a sprain. And we got a chance to catch up with Derrick Harmon in the locker room. Here was him when we were talking to him about just that, and also what where the defensive line's been in the work that they've been putting together. Here's Derrick Harmon from Steelers locker room on Saturday.
Mike said week to week, that's got to be a relief. What do you focus on mentally as well, while you're also focused on the physical part? What do you focus on mentally to keep up with the week to week, what they're tasking you to get ready for the regular season?
Just staying in the playbook, stand up to game speed, know what I got to do. Even though I'm not going to probably out there, but still be up to game speed, know what I got to do. And really, like you said, take week by week, and that's my ability to just attack this rehab.
How proud were you when you saw YA get those back-to-back sacks?
When I came back on the field, they had a TV on in the locker room, so he told me he got a sack. We headbutted a few times. I'm excited, man. Both of us rookies got sacks in back-to-back games, so that's the big time.
Did you see his sack dance?
Big belly rub, yeah, that's big belly.
It seemed like you were in good spirits with Cam and TJ on the sidelines. What kind of advice were they giving you in that moment there?
Really just don't get too much in my head, man. Injury's part of this game, and at this level, it's part of what we do. So just trying to keep my hopes up and keep me mentally prepared and mentally focused.
Derrick Harmon was pretty excited about Yahya Black's success, and we talked about it after the game here. Yahya Black getting back-to-back sacks, but also just being a force. I also wrote about it for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. There should be a film study up by the time that you're seeing or listening to this episode. Go check that out at post-gazette.com. But when I looked at Yahya Black and the stuff that he was doing, he's much further along than I thought he'd be. I thought at best Yahya Black would be a pure run stuffer because of his size and his long arms, but he's more than that right now. He is a disruptor and he has a high motor, and that is something that absolutely goes in his favor. We finally got a chance to talk to Yahya Black. It's been tough to get this guy. He is not a big talker to the media, but he's also just very upfront and very just genuine with his responses. You'll get a sense of that when you hear him here. Here was Yahya Black after the Steelers Saturday practice at their facility.
Back-to-back sacks on Thursday, and you walk us through what went well and what you liked about those pass rush reps you were able to finish on.
Just working with the team. First one, doing what you can do, working on your skill development, and the second one, you're just working with the defensive end and opens up.
When was the last time you had 2 sacks in a game?
Never.
Never?
No.
High school, anything?
Nope. I had 5.5 as a career in Iowa, so no, nowhere near it.
So is that just one of those nights, or is this a club you've put in your bag recently?
You're just working on it every day.
One thing, when we talk to Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, and the off-ball linebackers on this team, they credit you and Derrick with already understanding, hey, keep the linebackers clean. What about that is natural to your game as a defensive lineman to keep them clean and take on double teams so well?
That was the Iowa defense, 2-gapping and taking on double teams. So it translates out here.
What do you like about the way that Carl Dunbar coaches you and how he's challenged you to grow through training camp?
He's got that personality where he's gonna get on your back and really push you to be your best self, and so you always want to show up for him too.
What was the inspiration for the sack celebration? Is that something you just did in the moment, or did you think about that?
Just felt right.
They're calling it the belly selling on social media. Does that fit for you?
I mean, I got a belly, so yeah, it works.
You seem proud of it.
Oh, of course. Free the gut.
You moved around a lot, like that second sack you got, you were lined up outside of the tackle. Is that something that you did a lot at Iowa, or is that something that they've tasked you with more with that you're learning to do here in Pittsburgh?
I haven't been out there since freshman year of college.
What did that feel like then, just adapting to that?
You play your role and things go well.
So Yahya Black, I gotta admit, just his candidness is just being like, I haven't been there since freshman year of college. It's kind of refreshing when you talk to guys and they're just like, he's not even hyping himself up for his success. He's just like, hey, I'm just putting the work together. I think he just has a good approach. Same thing for Derrick Harmon. And honestly, the two of them could mean a lot of different things for what was one of the Steelers' biggest weaknesses at the end of the last season. We know that Cam Hayward's probably going to be able to bring it this year because like he did last year, at least we assume so. I think Keanu Benton does have an upper body injury. We'll see what that is. If that lingers into the season, doesn't seem too serious just yet, but we haven't gotten more information on that right now. But if there is a legitimate rotation that the Steelers defensive line can use this year, and it consists of a consistent presence to stuff the run, it is going to make this team a lot different. And there was a prospect of this being different, right? Like we talked about, hey, if Derrick Harmon can be good, this could be a big boost. But if Derrick Harmon's good, and Keanu Benton shows the improvement that he's shown. He was taking on double teams pretty well in the preseason, even against the Bucs' first-team offensive line, which, as we said, was pretty well stacked with good talents for them to face highly drafted guys there. If he's able to show progress, and then if Yahya Black's coming off the bench as another progress, and then Dan Aquale is just a solid veteran, you could have a legitimate 5-man rotation of defensive linemen that you're excited to see the field, let alone your extra guy like Isaiah Loudermilk that you'd fit in there, or Logan Lee that you'd fit in there. But these guys, these guys look versatile. Like, again, when you look at Yahya Black's second sack, he lined up outside the tackle. As he told you, he hasn't done that since his freshman year of college. But he's just, the way he works, he's using his hands to just naturally just use raw power. He doesn't need a lot of really sharp technique just yet because of his size and his power, but he's at least using some technique, and he is hustling. That's one thing that Mike Tomlin said when we talked to him. He was like, this guy comes with a good high motor. He's really athletic for his size, and you see it on plays. And again, I break it down in my Post-Gazette film review of Yahya Black, where there's a play where he's lining up kind of cocked at an angle, looking at the center, and it's a pass. He pushes the center back. He kind of monitors the play, puts his hand up to try to stop a quick pass over the middle. When the quarterback breaks outside, he chases the quarterback and he cuts the quarterback off. And he says, I'm gonna hunt you down. The quarterback ends up having to throw the ball quicker than he wanted to. That's that kind of stuff. That's normally stuff that you see out of veterans, guys that have polished their game. That Yahya Black's able to do that as the 5th round pick rookie at this stage is a very good sign for where he able to help. It doesn't mean he's ready to be a superstar, but it does mean that he is I think, further along than where I projected he would be and where most people projected where he'd be. And you throw that in with a Derrick Harmon, if he's healthy, coming back soon, and if Keanu Benton's coming back soon healthy, this could be the defensive line that makes a splash this year. And to make a splash, they don't need to be major sack producers. Yahya Black doesn't need to get multi-sack games every week. Neither does Derrick Harmon. But if they're simply taking up the line of scrimmage and pushing guys back and keeping linebackers clean and helping stuff the run, this team becomes a much more dangerous threat, especially on defense, because they're going to force more second and longs. They're going to force more third and longs. And when you do those, that's when the pass rush gets to key up different blitzes. They get to switch things up a lot more, be more aggressive. They get to be more aggressive in their coverage as well. And that's when the other playmakers on this defense, like TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Jalen Ramsey, Joey Porter, Deshaun Elliott, all those guys, they get to be bigger playmakers to create turnovers or bigger plays on riskier passing plays for teams. That's something that could be huge for the Steelers, but they need the foundation of this defensive line to kick in this year. They don't have to be elite, but if they can be good, if they can be strong, especially against the run, that is a huge step for this team moving forward. Another big step would be if this offensive line comes through. We'll talk about that and some things we got from Andy Weidel, the Steelers assistant GM, a little bit ago during the weeks leading into the preseason. We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you that this show is sponsored by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL. Use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for fuel safety information. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on the NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. One key future bet is always who's going to be the MVP. Right now, Lamar Jackson is the favorite at plus 430, and that's a pretty good bet. But I'm really intrigued by Jaden Daniels being a plus 1,000 bet right now. That's the 5th best odds of all players. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only, August 26th, coming up on Tuesday. Check out FanDuel. Play your game. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Before we continue the show, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, Steelers fans, back to what we were talking about here. I got some time to now go over and kind of just revisit all the preseason games. I wanted to specifically look at the offensive line because, as I have said, and I will continue to pound the table for all through this season, as much as it's exciting about Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey, and we will talk about those guys a lot throughout this season because they're huge to what the Steelers do. Nothing is more important to the future of this team than the solidification of this Steelers offensive line. And particularly, that's going to involve the development of their offensive tackles, Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu, in how they play this season. Now, when I went back and looked over how these guys did And Zach Frazier is also important, but the tackles are what they've invested their first round picks in. And if they hit on those, it could mean a lot. When I went back and looked over how these guys performed in all their preseason action, we saw a lot of good reps from both of them. But I was truly impressed because both of them played about 42 snaps in there, and I think about 27 of those were passing plays. And out of those, Troy Fautanu allowed 0 pressures in his time in this preseason. Broderick Jones only allowed 1. And you're probably thinking, well, he allowed 1. That's bad. It's actually pretty good considering where Broderick Jones was even just at the end of last season. They look very comfortable. And when I watch Troy Fautanu's handwork and his footwork, this guy seems like he is already putting together a lot of the things that you need to put together to be an upper tier offensive tackle. I'm not saying he's ready to go all pro, but I am saying I think he could be one of those guys that does so well this year that maybe he gets a Pro Bowl nod by the end of the season. Again, all pros a lot because there's only, so many tackles that can get all pro. But I do think that Troy Fautanu is looking really good in just what they're asking of him, especially in pass protection. He is so consistent with where he puts his hands when guys are trying different moves. He has counters to so many different things. And this is just what we've seen in preseason. We still got to see it in live action and against, higher caliber starting talent. Let's see how these guys do when, top tier edge rushers that go up against them, like when Myles Garrett comes to town or things like that. I think they're going to play Joey Bosa. No, Joey Bosa left the team, but either way, they're going to be playing top tier edge rushers at some point this season, and they need to be ready. But Troy Fautanu looks very advanced for what his footwork and handwork should be right now as a second-year player who didn't get to play his first season in the NFL. And meanwhile, Broderick Jones, I wouldn't say he looks advanced, but he looks competent. And if you remember just last year, competency was all you would be hoping for from Broderick Jones because he was so out of place at times. And if he's being competent with his frame and his size, you're looking at a guy who's going to be pretty good once he puts it all together. And if he's putting the basics together, that means he can start to stack on those things and be a better offensive tackle. We got a chance back. I think this was before the Steelers joint practice. So this was back on August 14th. I didn't get a chance to use these because we've been talking so much, but we got a chance to talk to Steelers assistant GM Andy Weidel, and we got to ask him a few questions. I wanted you to get a chance to hear him, how he responded on questions on Fautanu and Jones and where they are as an offensive line. Here's Steelers assistant GM Andy Weidel a few weeks ago at the Steelers, actually at Acrisure Stadium before their joint practice.
A big renovation project on the offensive line, 4 draft picks over 2 classes. Where would you assess the state of the line right now? How much do you feel like is this season going to determine the success of that project with Troy and Broderick starting in the places you kind of envisioned them for the first time?
I think every day they go out there together, they get better. And I think they have the right mindset. I think if you watch these guys at practice, when they come off the field and team, they're running wind sprints, right? They go to the side. It's a culture that they're developing. They want to be in shape. They do it together. And I just think, it's a young group. You want to watch them grow together. And anytime you can have the continuity with that, as those guys come up and they gain that experience and they work together, it's only going to serve them well and serve our team well. We know the players that we drafted. We know the people that we drafted too. The relationship with the game, as Coach often talks about, the football maturity they have, the football character, the love for the game. And it's just going to be exciting to watch these guys grow together.
Two things stood out to me that Andy Weidel was talking about: the continuity and the character. Let's talk about the continuity first. Again, this is something that I continue to harp on being vital to what this team's going to need development-wise. They need this group to gel together, to have time together, to grow together. And they've got 4 guys that are basically all learning at the same time. Three of these guys were drafted in the same class, and Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, and Mason McCormick. Broderick Jones is now playing at left tackle for the first time with these guys, as Troy Fautanu is getting his first action at right tackle. If the Steelers are able to put these guys together, it could be a situation where these guys become the next Pouncey, DeCastro, Gilbert, that crew of offensive linemen, which is something that you can rely on for the better part of a decade. That's what the Steelers are looking to put together. And then also the character being an important part of this. Because again, Pouncey was a leader. DeCastro was a leader. Ramon Foster was a leader. They had guys that were voices for the locker room, both as far as leadership and as far as lieutenants even being just like, hey, I may not be the loudest voice, but you should follow my example or follow this guy's example because this is what it takes to be a winner. And they need those voices back in this team, but especially back in this offensive line. And if they're able to get both of those with this group, it'll go such a long way, even beyond just this season with trying to protect Aaron Rodgers, trying to block for Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren and those things. This is about resetting a culture to make it so that whenever you do get that quarterback, if you hit it right, that quarterback is, or even if you hit it wrong, whoever's your quarterback that you're coming in is learning behind an offensive line that's already together, that's headed in the right direction, that's stacking, that's building, becoming better, and can be on its way to being one of the best units in the NFL. And that's what the Steelers are hoping to get out of this group. Now, as I pointed out last week when we were going over specifics with the offensive line, they still aren't showing nearly what they want to show for what they can do this year. When talking to Arthur Smith, we had this on some of our last week episodes. Arthur Smith acknowledged that, like, hey, like, we want to be able to pull and use these guys in space. We're not showing any of that right now in the preseason because that's what we want to, kind of get out and kind of catch people off guard with. But he said all 5 of these offensive linemen can pull and hit in space and be effective. And that's something that if you combine good, consistent pass protection with good communication that keeps quarterbacks clean with athletic playmaking at the lineman position and finding different ways to kind of use your alignment to catch guys off guard and to create space in the run game. That's the stuff that can make a special unit. And again, if you're able to get that, that means the run game becomes a lot better for you, a lot more easier to work. It makes it easier on the quarterback. And then also, if you're protecting the quarterback, well, you're giving them a much more comfortable space. And then you give yourself a foundation where, let's say you draft a rookie quarterback and maybe they are the future, but they're not ready right now. They have things that they can lean on, simpler reads, easier pockets to work with, a run game that they can hand the ball off to and not have to think as much, and you can play off of for play action to give them easier looks. Those are things that weren't available even to Kenny Pickett. And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett would have been, the greatest guy ever if all those things were available to him. But let's face the facts that he didn't have a good offensive line, nor a consistent run game, nor a good offensive coordinator for most of his time with the Steelers. And that certainly didn't help his development. And we can all argue about whether or not Kenny Pickett would have developed with all those things with the Steelers. But the bottom line is you got to put yourself in a position for that. If you do get the right quarterback in the next draft, that you have the facilities and the players and the build on your offense to house that quarterback, develop with them, and make them come up with your offense, and so that you can have a consistent unit. And if you do that, you put yourself in a position to be in the conversation for being one of those better offenses of the NFL again, which the Steelers really haven't been in since 2020, 2018. Those might be the last few years that they've been in those types of conversations. So I think that's what the Steelers are looking for right now. They need this offensive line to show that continuity and also show the character of leadership. And I kind of see it with these guys. Zach Frazier's that quiet leader that sets the tone, but doesn't really say much. He just kind of he's a good leading presence. Troy Fautanu, I get the sense, is very much kind of deferring to the older leadership right now, but he's another guy that I think has a good head on his shoulders, knows what he's doing. People look at it and they understand, hey, that guy's doing a pretty good job. I think he's another example setter. Broderick Jones, I think when I listen to Broderick Jones, if you just hang around him during practice, he tries to get everyone else to smile. He tries to be this positive guy. I think there's a lot to this group of young guys on the offensive line. They want to be mean, they want to be nasty, but they also want to be good people to their teammates and set up a good locker room culture and carry on a good locker room culture from what they've inherited from guys like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. And let's also be clear, whereas the defense has been able to pass that on, the offense didn't really get a chance to pass things on because Ben Roethlisberger retired after 2021. The guys that you were hoping that would kind of pass the torch might be like guys like Najee Harris, who aren't here anymore. Pat Freiermuth is one of those guys. I think he's another good locker room presence. But again, if you have the offensive line setting that tone, it goes so much further. And those are also guys that are naturally just, if they're starters, they're with you for 5 to 8 to 10 years. And that can be something that helps get other guys in line when you need them to. And I can tell you, just as a person who was around the team, there were times Marquise Pouncey got plenty of players in line. So did David DeCastro. I watched David DeCastro during a Bengals game have to straighten out Juju Smith-Schuster so that he didn't commit a penalty and lose them the game one time in Cincinnati. So you need guys like that in your locker room, and I think that the Steelers at least like what they see of these young guys and how they're building into being those types of players. But of course, we got to talk about who they're protecting, and that's the quarterback plan. Now, there is a big question as far as what will the Steelers do with their final 53 roster cut down, which is due to be done Tuesday and be finalized. We'll talk about that when we get there. But there's now a bigger question what to do at quarterback, not with Aaron Rodgers, not with Mason Rudolph, but with Skylar Thompson and Will Howard. I want to talk about that as well as some other stuff Andy Weidel gave us on the future of the quarterback position. We'll do all that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features like that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team each week gets eliminated until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. But if you don't have a crew, that's no problem. Join a public league. It's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off on September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our episode here talking about the quarterback position now. And again, I'll get to the long-term stuff, but I do think it's interesting the situation that the Steelers are in. Now, my colleague, Jerry Dulac, did report also over this weekend that the Steelers may be considering the possibility of him being of Skylar Thompson being a quarterback that they keep on the roster, and if there's a possibility they could put Will Howard on injured reserve because Skylar Thompson has been that good in training camp. And Skylar Thompson in training camp and preseason, I mean, let's face it, he looked pretty sharp the last two preseason games. His only interception was one that kind of bounced off the hands of Lance McCutcheon. But I look at this in a situation and see the Steelers are saying, "Hey, Will Howard, we like you. You were really impressive in your times at training camp, but you missed a good bit of time. You got a broken bone in your hand. Maybe you'll come back at some point. We'll take you to the 53-man roster, put you on injured reserve, and see where we go there." I think that the Steelers are going to try to protect all four of these quarterbacks because I think they're also in the mindset that, like, hey, Aaron Rodgers is an older guy. Just a few years ago when we had an older quarterback that got hurt and lost for the season and Mason Rudolph was the next guy up, we saw him get hurt. And then all of a sudden we were down to a duck collar as our lead quarterback. Skylar Thompson is far above a Devlin Hodges. And that's no disrespect to Devlin Hodges, nor my boy, Tony Serino, who used to love him some duck. But Skylar Thompson is a guy who started in playoff games. He's been a guy that can conduct an NFL offense, can make NFL reads and NFL throws, and can be relied upon to do some of the basics things, a lot like how Mason Rudolph can. Now, I still think Mason Rudolph is the number two, but I do think that Skylar Thompson has made it so, like, no, we like this guy as the number three. Will Howard might have been the guy had he had the chance, but it's one of those things Mike Tomlin often talks about. When you get an opportunity, what do you make of it? I think Skylar Thompson made as best of his opportunity as possible. And I know there's a lot of people out there that love some Will Howard and think that he can be the GOAT if you just give him a chance. But realistically, I think you want to give this guy time to recover. Don't rush him back into a situation. And let's just see what happens with his hand recovery. Because if he's able to come back maybe in the middle part of the season, maybe you do bring him back. But ultimately, Will Howard was never going to play this season unless disaster struck the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I mean, again, 2019 level, your star quarterback goes down, your backup quarterback goes down, and now he's in there. And I know some people really thought that maybe he could be that guy. And listen, maybe he can be when he eventually gets the time. But this was not the year that you wanted Will Howard getting his first real shots at the NFL. You want him to develop, learn the pace of the game, learn with the team. And I think next year, if he's able to keep his head on straight and stay focused, next year he'll come into training camp. He'll probably compete with whoever they draft at quarterback next year, and he'll have a chance to show how well he can conduct an NFL offense. And that, to me, is the bottom line for this. But still, again, the point of Will Howard was never for him to be the future. The Steelers very much have their eyes on this 2026 draft class when it comes to the quarterback position. Now, Will Howard's a good insurance pick to say, like, hey, if we whiff on that pick in 2026, at least there was a guy we took in 2025 that's been learning the system, who maybe he can be the sort of Mason Rudolph bridge type of quarterback that carries you into the next quarterback that you try to pick and get right. But we got a chance to ask Andy Weidel about the quarterback class. And I wanted to specifically ask Andy Weidel because I noted, hey, you're part of this front office that made all these huge moves: DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, this guy, that guy, all over the place. You made all these moves, and you did all these things, but at the same time, you didn't give up any picks for the 2026 draft class. So what's that about the quarterbacks? Listen to Andy Weidel when he answers that question and some follow-up questions specifically about the next year class. Here was Andy Weidel, Steelers assistant GM.
You get curious with this year when it came to reorganizing this roster, but in all those moves, you guys protected your draft picks for next year, projecting out 12 or so. How much that has to do with the upcoming quarterback class, and what about this upcoming projected quarterback class excites you guys at the front office to dig into it once the season goes?
Well, it's every quarterback class. You got to know that class. So we're going to do our due diligence. We'll know these guys. We'll go see them play. We're in the pick business. The more picks you have, the more swings you have, the more opportunity and flexibility you get. And that can be in the draft. That can be with any player that comes available down the road. So, credit to Omar to acquiring those picks and giving us that flexibility. And we'll see what happens, what it translates to, what rounds and whatnot with the comp picks. But I think it's great to have a lot of picks, and it's a good quarterback. Everybody's talking about the quarterback class. Time will tell. We'll see how these guys play, and like we do every year, we do our due diligence. We know the class, and expect nothing different this year.
So. What's your early take on that quarterback class before they play?
Early take, there's some guys that are really talented coming out. There's guys that can win from the pocket. There's guys that can win from the pocket and win on the run. They have they can run. They can beat you with their legs as well. So I don't want to get too much into it right now. It's early.
More quarterbacks than last year?
It seems to be. Now whether they all come out, we'll find out. We'll do our work like we do every year. Our scouts. We got a great group of scouts. We've got continuity. This year is the first time. From last year, this year, we've had the same group together. So we're expecting big things. We talked about it. It's a great opportunity for our staff to have all these picks, and we'll see how the year plays out.
So I think an important thing to remember here is the Steelers, they're banking on the idea that the quarterback position is going to be a good position to draft this upcoming year in 2026. But they're also kind of being flexible as they can, right? They have a lot of picks, which could mean let them do a lot of different things. They could trade up and get a high value quarterback early in the first round. They could use those picks to supplement the roster in different places if they feel like, hey, you know what, this isn't the quarterback class we promised. Let's go get a top tier receiver, a top tier corner, top tier something, but then keep a lot of these other picks to use to replenish the roster and get younger in a lot of places. All those possibilities are out there, but it's clear when you listen to Andy Weidel talk, that's absolutely what they're talking about for the future, which again is affecting everything the Steelers are doing right now for the quarterback position. They're only keeping Aaron Rodgers around for this year, maybe next year if things go great and he wants to go one more time, and then maybe he can be that quarterback that mentors the younger guy. But Mason Rudolph, in case Aaron Rodgers isn't that guy, Mason Rudolph is that guy that would take the reins and sort of be the lead quarterback in that situation. Will Howard would be the younger guy who has a year of NFL experience under his belt, And then that would set the stage for the rookie to come in and learn from all of them and kind of develop in a comfortable space where he doesn't have to go out and be a superstar rookie right away. But if he shines bright and it's obvious that he deserves more chances, they can put him out there if they want to. But I think that's a solid plan for what the Steelers want to do, but you got to execute it as far as going and getting your guy. That'll be something we try to monitor throughout the season as far as who we like and don't like in this draft class and where they will and might be and where the Steelers might be and what they might need to trade up. That's going to be a lot of calculating all season long. But again, that's part of what we're going to keep track of here. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this year at quarterback plays out with what they want to do. And, also with Arthur Smith's offense, does Arthur Smith stick around another year? Does Arthur Smith's system do so well that they feel like, hey, we can plug in a lot of different people to this? It's going to be a lot of factors to calculate for, but hey, that's why we do this every day here, Monday through Friday, on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. I'm Chris Carter. You've been listening to or watching the Locked On Steelers podcast. We're on all your favorite podcasting apps. We're also on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. Again, check out my film study on Yahya Black in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. I'm back at the Steelers practice facility today. We'll see what they have to say just one day ahead of their 53-man roster cut down. We'll see you here tomorrow on the Locked On Steelers podcast.